All right, welcome back. Wholesaling and flipping houses. And today we are talking about estimating repairs. This is part two. If you've been following along, a little bit of background on myself. I've been wholesaling and flipping houses in the Houston market for almost 8 years now. My name is James, and my contact information is 832-534-2274. If you have a deal you want me to look at or help you with, please reach out to me via text at that number. Like I said, I am a buyer. My exit strategy is flipping, and I also wholesale. So I do have buyers that, if needed, I can bring you a buyer for your deal, and we can work that deal together. So if you have something you want me to look at in either of those aspects, again, text me at that number. But let's go ahead and dive in. This is part two of estimating repairs. And on this video, we're going to be talking about scope of work. Okay. There's a lot that goes into doing a scope of work. And for me personally, I spend quite a bit of time doing it. I spend several hours on putting this together. I've got a list of a bunch of things that are included in the scope of work, but more importantly, would like to talk to you about the purpose of scope of work and what it's meant for. So diving into that, the purpose. My source of funding is hard money and private money. And anytime I go to do a deal and I'm going to present a deal to a lender of either type, they're going to require me to do a scope of work. And the scope of work basically is a painting of, in words, a painting of what the subject property is going to look like when you're done. You're basically going to lay out every little aspect of what you're going to do. And it's going to help you break down your costs, your material costs, and your labor costs. And it's also going to help you determine the time frame as well, how long it should take you. So diving into the scope of work, I got a long list of items here. And yes, I admit I probably, for the sake of this video, I probably left a few things out. I'm not actively doing the scope of work right this second, so a lot of this is, based on memory. So please forgive me if I have left a few things out. Even big key items I could have left out. But again, going back to the scope of work and helping you estimate your rehab budget costs. You need to include your demo, your dumpsters, your permits. You need to break it down into different categories. You got your inside, your sheetrock, your paint, your flooring. You want to be on every one of these. You want to be as specific as you can be. For example, you want to say, we're going to need approximately, 40 sheets of sheetrock replaced, or we're going to need a certain amount of square footage of sheetrock replaced. And it'll help you determine how many sheets you need. You want to include your paint. You want to include your colors. You want to include your finishes, your sheen, what brand of paint, whether it's Behr Pro, Sherwin-Williams, and there's other brands out there as well. Your flooring, you want to include, your approximate square footage of each type of flooring. For example, if you're going to do laminate flooring in the main areas, you want to get a measurement, and you want to include any kind of excess or waste. So what I typically do, if I'm going to measure and I come up with, I'm going to do 1,500 square feet of laminate flooring, I'm at about 10 to 15% to that for, waste or, overages, whatever you may run into. You also got to understand that, like I mentioned in the previous video, if you're doing hardwood, or laminate flooring, you're going to have the padding underneath. Same thing with carpet. You're going to have that, the padding underneath it. If you are doing tile, you need to factor in your grout. You need to factor in your thin set. Again, you know the approximate square footage that you're doing. You also need to, on your scope of work, when it comes to tile, okay, you need to also include, and this is how detailed you get, you include your spacing as well. You have 1/8 inch spacing, you have 1/4 inch spacing. Those are the two typical, measurements of your spacing. You need to include the size of tile. Is it going to be 16 by 16? Is it 12 by 12? Is it 16 by 24? There's also porcelain tile and there's ceramic tile. Those are the most common. You need to factor in, your cabinets, your countertops. If you're going with granite, you got level 1, level 2, level 3. Is it going to be quartz? You need to factor in your backsplash. Your hardware. For example, in the kitchen behind me, I counted each knob. Am I going to put knobs or am I going to do, handles or pulls? You break down how many, I need, I'm going to use 15 or 16. I'm going to use 16 knobs and I'm going to use 12 pulls, and specify what goes on doors, what goes on drawers. For this particular kitchen, I just used knobs all the way through. You also need to include the finishes, are they satin nickel, are they bronze, things like that. It's not really gonna, bronze, or nickel, whatever the finish is, that may not it shouldn't affect your labor cost, but it's part of painting the picture with words. You want to get as detailed as possible. I'm probably going to say that 15 times in this video, so be prepared to hear it, as detailed as possible on your scope of work, because again, you're painting a picture with words of what is going to happen to the property, what it's going to look like when it's all done. You need to be able to set it up, write your scope of work to where if it's your project and I come in halfway through or 1/4 of the way through, I need to be able to read your scope of work. I need to be able to see where you're at. I need to be able to see what your goal is for it to look like when it's all said and done. So the more detailed, the better. I even count, here you'll see, electrical. I specify, I need, 23 outlet plugs and plates to be replaced. I need 14 light switches replaced and plates. I specify my fans, my light fixtures, plumbing fixtures. That's not even on here. Told you I was going to forget something. Already found something. Your plumbing fixtures. And you need to specify, I've got 4 outlets in this bedroom. I've got 5 outlets in bedroom number 2. And this bedroom number 1 has a light fixture, a fan. And the bathroom is going to have this type of light fixture, and so on. You need to be as detailed as possible throughout each room. Some things are going to be dedicated to where you're going to be throughout. For example, my light switches, my outlet cover plates, those are done on my flip properties. I do those throughout. My light fixtures, my fans, my plumbing fixtures, those are 95% of the time, every single one of them is replaced. Toilets, same thing, that falls under plumbing. Are you going to replace the bathtub? Are you going to resurface it? If you're going to replace it, what kind of tub are you going to put in? There's just all sorts of different things, and the more detailed you are, the more clear the painting of the picture is. It also helps your contractor, your general contractor, know exactly what the game plan is, and they can provide a better detailed budget for you or bid. And they can help you keep on track of your budget as well. You break it down, You have your door trim, your doors. Well, actually, trim. You got two types of, or multiple types of trim. You got your baseboard. There's, some people put crown molding in their house. There's door trim. There's different types of window trim. So you need to specify what you're going to do on each item. And again, detail, detail, detail. You can never, on a scope of work, you cannot, from my opinion and my experience, you cannot be too detailed on a scope of work. You can have not enough detail, very, very easy. But you need to have a count. If you're replacing the doors, you need to have a count of, I need this many doors, measurements of the doors. This is a 36-inch door. This is a 32-inch door. This is a 24-inch. Most of your closets are 18 or 24-inch doors. You know how many doors you're going to have of each one. That'll also help you when you're shopping or putting your materials list together and building your cart, or picking out materials. It'll help you with your cost as well, because your different size doors, common sense, different size doors are going to cost a little bit different. Same thing with your countertops, your cabinets. Every little thing is going to be a different cost. Your type of cabinets. Are you going to shaker style? Are you going to replace all the cabinets? Or are you going to reface? Two big different items there. You can save a lot of money if the cabinets are good. You can save a lot of money by refacing instead of replacing. You can replace the doors and replace the front of it. Maybe the shelves, but that is cheaper than ripping out every cabinet, putting a brand new cabinet in. So these are the types of things that you need to have. Your level 1, level 2 granite. Just the more information you have on the scope of work, I cannot stress that enough. And your quantities. You also need to list in there, your brands, or the name of it. If the flooring, if it's got a particular name as far as the style of it or the flavor, if you will, you need to specify that. You need to specify on laminate flooring. I use 12 millimeter. You have 8 millimeter, you have 7 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter, and I use 12 millimeter on my flips. And in my scopes of work, it says install 1,548 square feet of 12 millimeter, laminate flooring, whatever the name of it is, the name, the color, whatever they call it. I include in there, install new appliances, refrigerator, microwave, your oven or your range hood. I specify as much as I can. You see over here HVAC, jumping around a little bit. Your HVAC, are you going to install a new 4-ton unit? Is it going to be a 3.5 ton? Ductwork, is the ductwork going to need to be replaced or added? And how much ductwork? Is it, do you need 10, 20-foot runs? Do you need 5 10-foot runs? Or do you need 5 20-foot runs? Whatever you need, as much as you can include. Same thing with fencing. If you need, say you need 150 linear feet of fencing to be installed. You need to know that, because that's going to help you with your material cost and labor cost. And that's basically all I can really emphasize on scope of work, is to be detailed as you can. Go room by room and explain what needs to happen in that room on your scope of work. Use square footage, use quantities, use sizes, measurements, use colors, use finishes. Are you doing eggshell as far as your paint goes? Are you doing eggshell? Are you doing satin? Are you doing semi-gloss. What finish you're using. Won't always affect your labor cost, but it should, sometimes it can affect your material cost. Your hardware. Are you replacing every doorknob, with every new door? Is it going to have a new doorknob? You can use the old doorknob. Me personally, I use new because, again, my exit strategy is flipping. If you're doing a rental property, if it's a buy and hold, you may not need to do all of this stuff. And just because it's on the list, for example, you may not do fencing. Okay, so you don't need to put anything there. You can, on your scope of work, scopes of work are usually done on a spreadsheet, and you can just put NA or not available. Your landscaping. You need to, dictate, mow, edge, and weed eat front and backyard on a, weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. Are you putting in mulch? Are you putting in stones? Describe exactly what you're doing. Roofing. Are you going to go with a 20-year, 25 or 30-year roof? What types of shingles? On every item, you need to have as much information as you can for the contractor or the general contractor to know what's expected. And he also can know how to price. The more information he has, the better he can price it. The last thing you want to do is say, yeah, I need you to come in and demo. I need, you're going to need 2 dumpsters. Go ahead and, pull the permits. Just make, sheetrock repairs where needed. Paint, I'll give you the color scheme. We're going to do this wall in one color. We'll do an accent wall over there in this color. Replace all the cabinets. Just do shaker style cabinets. Do granite countertops. It's very vague. And the last thing you want to have happen is, for one, for him to not know exactly what needs to be done, and 2, for him to underbid. The general contractor can underbid the job and then get in there and find out, no, we didn't talk about that. That's not what you said. You just said you wanted this or you wanted that, and that's what I gave you, and the picture's not clear. He could also get in there and say, okay, you know what, I'll do this job for, I'll do it for $25,000 labor. And then he gets in there and you want all this done and you want top of the line stuff, or you want this that you didn't specify and he didn't understand what you wanted. Well, then now, in order to deliver the product that you want, he's going to say, well, that's going to drive my labor costs instead of $25,000. Now it would be at, $29,000. Well, where are you going to get an extra $4,000? Okay, that's going to affect your bottom line. You just lost $4,000. So not having the right amount of detail, which is as much as possible, but not having enough detail can cause a lot of problems in your rehab. So again, you want to write a book, you want to write a novel. If this takes you 5 hours to put together, if it takes you 6 hours to put together, that's time well spent. If it versus somebody that puts a rehab budget. Now, somebody's done 500 rehabs or 100 rehabs, or whatever. They may be able to do a scope of work in an hour or 2. That's different. But if it's, within your first 50 deals, first 20 deals, especially your first or second deal, and you're spending an hour on it, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You want to spend, it's tedious work. I know. I don't even like doing this. The scope of work, I don't like doing the scope of work myself, but I know I have to do it, and I do it, and I put as much time as it takes me to do it to where there's no discrepancies or there's very little discrepancies. There's always going to be a discrepancy somewhere. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, how much time you put in it, we're human. We're always going to make a mistake somewhere. So that's to be expected. But what you want to do is you want to minimize it. If I go through this scope of work and it comes out during the rehab process, it comes out I got to spend an extra $1,000 because I missed something or I didn't specify something right, and it's just one or two things, or three things, and it's like I said, it's $1,000. Well, you know what? So be it. I have a contingency in my budget for overages. I like to say, pardon my language, it's an oh shit budget. Oh shit, I forgot about that, or oh shit, I overlooked that, or I didn't see that coming. You're always going to find things when you get into houses. You're going to have surprises. When you open up walls or you move walls, you pull up the flooring, or any of that. Here's another example. In this particular house I'm sitting in right now, on the inspection report, there was something with the piping underground. Now I got to call a company out here that's got a camera on a snake with a camera, so they can go down into the pipes underneath the house and find out what's going on, because there's an issue. Okay, there's standing water somewhere, and so I got to find out what's going on with that. It's not something I could have seen, coming. So that's another expense. And it's a good reason to have on your budget that I've covered in previous videos. You want to have that contingency. Like I said, 15% or 5,000, whichever is greater. If you're 15%, if you do your rehab budget, say your rehab budget's, 25,000, and that's materials and labor. You do 15% of that, it's going to be less than 5,000. So you want to have a $5,000 buffer on there to where that'll cover. Now you don't want to use that, but you want to have it just in case you need to. And most likely there's a good chance. It's not guaranteed on every single house, but there's a good chance that you could need to use it. Same thing with electrical, plumbing, all of these things, you're going to need to have that contingency in there for. You need to have as many details. Again, I can't stress that enough. I know you're tired of hearing me say it already, but you cannot have too much information. You also got to have the correct information in there as well. For example, I've got one of my tile guys. He's got a price for porcelain tile and a price for ceramic tile. And if I tell him, hey, you're going to install ceramic tile, and he gives me a price for it, and I come back and I do porcelain tile, it could be different. Now, sometimes it can work in my favor. It could be, cheaper. I could, got things reversed, and it could be cheaper. But most of the time it does not. When there's a discrepancy or, different charge for something, it usually does not work out in my favor. And by having the right information, and you go over your scope of work, you walk your house with your general contractor and go through your scope of work, or have your general contractor help you put a scope of work together, that increases your chances, highly increases your chances of being on the same page. And that is the key to a successful rehab. It's one of the major keys, is to be on the same page with your general contractor. Knowing your costs, knowing your material costs, your labor costs, and all that stuff. Now, let's dive into something else. This is actually more of a topic for another video, which I'm about to do right after this one. Material costs. What I typically do is I get a general, I want my general contractor to give me a labor cost for 90% of the stuff. Now, the flooring, I know my flooring cost. I'm gonna, it is what it is. I'm gonna go pick it out. That's gonna be my flooring cost. Tile, granite. Sometimes I let them give me a quote on granite. But my light fixtures, my fans, all my cosmetic stuff, my paint, sheetrock, things like that, I'm going to price out myself. Now, when it comes to electrical, when it comes to plumbing, HVAC, things of that nature, I let them price out turnkey. For example, if it's plumbing, major plumbing, or if it's major electrical, for example, on this property, we installed a new breaker box. I had my general contractor give me a price on turnkey, materials and labor when it comes to that. Because I'm not an electrician, I don't know every single little part that they're gonna need. Now, I have an idea of what it should cost, so I know that if my general contractor tells me, you know what, it's gonna be $3,000 to replace this breaker box, when I know it should cost me $1,800, for example, I know within a certain range if he's overcharging me or if he's in the ballpark. Now if I think it should be $1,800 and he comes back and it's $1,950, I may or may not, argue about it. Of course I'm going to try to negotiate and try to get the best possible deal. But I'm not going to sit there and nickel and dime, on every single little thing, to an extent. I'm going to try to get the best deal I can, but, I'm not going to bicker over, $150. If I know that if it's within reason, I just don't want to pay, an extra $1,000 for something that I can pay instead of paying $3,000. If I can get it for $1,900, I'd rather get it for the $1,900, of course. But that goes back to, I'm not an electrician. I don't know every single little thing that they're going to need, and I don't want to spend the time to sit there and, price out every little thing. That's just me. There's other people out there that do. And that's great. Same thing with being a plumber. Same thing with, siding. I'm just going to get it close. Same thing with fencing. I'm going to get it close. Again, I have my contingency budget. I'll pick out my paint, I pick out my flooring, I pick out and then on the grout, I ask them, I said, how much? If we're doing 800 square feet of tile, how much grout you need? How many bags? And then I throw in a few extra. I would rather take stuff back after the rehab. I'd rather take stuff back than have to go buy more. So on my cosmetic stuff, I usually pick out my materials, and I usually price my own materials. I also get with the person that I use for my materials, I get free deliveries. So I always set it up to where I have the materials delivered, so that's not an extra cost that I have to pay with my general contractor as far as having his guys go get the materials. I have them delivered to the property, so they can spend more of their time here on the property to get it finished on time. Okay. Another thing that a scope of work helps you do, which I did not write down, again, I told you at the beginning I was going to forget some things, is it's going to help you phase your rehab. You have different phases, okay? Once you demo, you have certain phases you do things in. You can do all your sheetrock repair, your sheetrock replacement. You can do your painting, all your wall preps. You're going to do your electrical stuff, your electrical rough stuff. You're not going to put in your fans until the end, but your outlets, your cover plates, things like that. You can have your outlets replaced, and then you do your painting, and then you can have your plates put on after you paint. Things of that nature. You don't want to put your flooring in and then paint. You don't want to put your flooring in first. Your flooring and your appliances are typically going to be your last items to go in. You typically want to do all your walls, all your bathroom stuff, your painting. Then you want to bring in your cabinets, your countertops. Then you want to start doing your finishing stuff, and then you want to put your floors and your appliances in. That's generally how it goes. It's not down to a T, but that's just generally speaking. So this will also help you with phasing out your rehab as well. And you can get a schedule for each phase. Okay, so phase one is prepping all my walls and the painting and the electrical rough in. Okay, that's going to be phase one. All right, so how long is it going to take you to do phase one? Well, it's going to take me a week to do that. Okay, so now phase two is going to be these items. How long is it going to take you to do that? Okay, and so forth until you get to the final phase. And then after you do your final phase, you're done. Another aspect that it's going to help you with as far as your budget goes, it's going to help you have a payment schedule. Because your contractor's not going to wait till the very end to get paid. You're going to have to pay him as you go along. Most of your contractors work that way. A lot of them, you typically want you to pay them a little bit up front, and because a lot of them, they'll have their day labor costs and everything. So we typically give a small amount up front, and then we do progress payments. So after you finish phase one, then you get paid after inspections are done and everything is to your satisfaction. Then you move on, you give payment, you move on to the next phase. Okay, and that'll be something we talk about, coming up here soon. We'll talk about, how to put your contract together with your contractor to keep things on schedule, to go hand in hand with the scope of work. So this